Hello YouTube, I hope that everybody is doing very well today. Thank you for joining me. Many do not seem to realize the nature of compromise, complexity, and actuality. So, producing progress. Through the quagmire of contradictions, no matter if considering human frailty and or public bureaucracy. Whether we consider this or not, we forget that sometimes accommodations for all sides to make concessions is an essential feature of ensuring progress while not turning our backs on that which is crucial. We sometimes forget the counterweight to the market of potential corruption is transparency, among other things. Yet, many just want to control the narrative, normally under the guise of an opinion, so they can guard and direct the ultimate agency, thereby shaping the future that could not come about, that is, through solely market-based relationships or individual action alone. Sometimes exposing the elephant in the room and removing its stink is the simplest way to offer a countervailing force to corruption. Thoroughly masticating reality can aid us in sidestepping the ills of a fragmented society. So let's get started. This aside, one of the most difficult things to do when addressing the mental discomfort that comes with certain information is to gain no pleasure, no invigoration from the hurt caused to others or the amusement created at someone else's expense. Any of these actions acts as a betrayal. Surely it only illustrates all too clearly that the observer was only acting in order to gain personal satisfaction or increase esteem. Unfortunately, people make things more complicated oftentimes. Some willingly gravitate towards the messy, mundane, inconclusive, tangled business of politics, while being far removed from the passion for certainty. When we give warnings, especially regarding the workings of a particular administrative machinery of government, one which is charged with the so-called preservation of public order and tranquility, the promotion of safety and morals, and the detection and punishment of crimes. When we give warnings based on actuality, hopefully it is our intention to pursue the notion of social progress and social protection. I am not a police officer. Admittedly, my knowledge of their world is limited. However, it is apparent that a chasm between the police unions and Blasio exists. Of course, the narrative of the police union leaders is that de Blasio contributed to an environment that allowed the officers killing. All this done by supporting protest. You do not have to engage in shaming tactics to rightfully point to the dismissive, juvenile behavior of some police officers. I do not think you can flame anti-cop tensions by telling your children the reality of former interactions with certain police officers. Truly, it is revealing that certain blue bloods are all up in arms regarding the promoting of a pilot program that would put body cameras on police officers. It was even more revealing when he rightfully spoke out against the centuries of racism that has encouraged some people to link criminality with black males. Surely he knows his personal views are not the views of all 8 million people that he represents. This does not mean he is wrong in his assessment. It is devoid of good sense to claim or imply all white men are the problem. People with a certain mindset, people primarily motivated by fear, and people that cling to erroneous mental representations appear to be the problem. However, for you souls out there, for you misguided souls that want to make it all about a racial group, when a black person commits murder, it is reported that approximately 95% is black on black interactions, meaning 5% of the time it is not. Right? Simple math. When a white person commits murder, we're speaking on white interactions at about 85%. So we have 15% of the time which it is not. This means that white people kill outside of their group 3 times or approximately 300% more than blacks do. So who is the bigger threat to the other? So do not discard your distorted propaganda pieces on my comment board. The fact is, people commit crimes. It shouldn't really matter if their race, if you want to go outside of the human race umbrella, that their race is a significant factor. Most of the times, I would offer it is not, unless we're speaking about a particular belief system or particular approach to the world. That said, it is idiotic to promote that telling the truth regarding the unethical behavior of police behavior massaged by the hammer of fear and failed belief systems is inappropriate. Fact is, the public frequently receives authentic reports of police killing with impunity. It is much better to lie to ourselves, right, and pretend that most cops are good when someone clearly points out uncomfortable information. It is often manipulated in our modern world. For example, if one demonstrates that unaccountable power attracts psychopaths, that there are more than mere bullies as police officers, that every day we have unofficial accounts where police are witnessed hurting people and terrorizing them, then we are blaming Whitey. Blaming Whitey, because they are the dominant representative within this system. Again, fact is, we cannot afford to turn our backs on the fact that psychopaths join police forces to hurt people. That some of these wackos are racist as well. Do I have to point out to you again, yet again, that we do not have a fundamentally race-neutral and equal opportunity society in which everyone makes his or her own fate? So it definitely is not about condemning whites for their relative lack of racial suffering. Surely there is proof of America being a bizarre Twilight Zone type nation when a group that has long been the wealthiest sector of society and its dominant cultural force embraces the status of victimhood. A position it claims to find so offensive in others. Imagine that. It is not a matter of white guilt when you have people in places of power that actively supports a justice system, a so-called justice system that serves the political ambitions of prosecutors and the murderous lust of certain police psychopaths. Side note, black conservatives, those that may be listening, you guys would be much better off if you would abandon the failed stand that recognizing and addressing the reality of a situation is the same thing as indulging or embracing white guilt. It is not. We're speaking of liberation from such poor ways of dealing with reality. Liberation is the key. It is the race-based conservatives, such as yourself, and the asinine liberals that feed y'all, who are projecting your own emotional turmoil onto others. How can I expect most black conservatives to acknowledge this when so many of you appear often to be a caricature of top-down bureaucratic inefficiency and waste? Anyway, back to de Blasio. Point is, the state draws its legitimate power from the people. Legitimate power. So, focus must be placed on that sector which acts to usurp this reality. Remember, supposedly where power cannot be exercised by individuals or within the context of community, then on the behalf of the people, not a group, but the people, a righteous government, if one ever existed, and that's highly questionable, must act decisively in taking on those forces and improving upon those machinations, those mechanisms for equality and justice. It's the police brass which appears to insist upon operating as opportunists and turning key interactions with police officers into a confrontation to promote their own self-interest. Yet another tool in the toolbox of divide and conquer. The public be damned. Thank you for listening.